Hi, Jewish Mom. This, I think, is the first time ever that I'm making a special pep talk for the mothers who live in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel. And but I think it could probably also mothers living anywhere else who feel troubled by the situation in Israel, or mothers dealing with any stressful situations, I guess, in other parts of the world. Maybe this could be helpful to you. So I just want to talk about I think probably most of us who live in Israel, especially those of us Jewish mothers who are living in Jerusalem, or who are living in Yishuvim, more like tense parts of Israel, then we're feeling it especially. But probably mothers living all over, watching this all over in Israel, we're feeling quite a bit of tension now. This morning at like 6:45 in the morning, my alarm clock went off, and I was hearing, and I, got up, and I'm hearing sirens, 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 sirens. And then, and then of course I turn on the news. I'm watching, looking to see like the news updates, nothing, nothing, nothing. Like 10 minutes, sirens, 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 nothing on the news. And then about 10 minutes later, it said that there had been an attempted terror attack, an attempted stabbing of a soldier by the central bus station, which is about 5 minutes from our new home in Kiryat Moshe. But like that's like what it's sort of been like. Like we live on the on like the route to two major hospitals in Jerusalem. So like basically if ambulances are rushing from anywhere, then I hear them. So really like we feel very, very much here. Like, first thing this morning I wake up and feeling already like the tension of like what's happening here. So I'm going to talk about a bit about, first of all, what it's like having in this situation, what it's like having, this is maybe possibly the first time in my life that I feel like my children are giving me chizuk, that my children are the ones who are helping me or giving me daily pep talks to get through this. I have children, probably like many of us, many of the mothers who live in Israel. I have children who are very idealistic and very Zionistic and very, very, and this kind of stuff. It's difficult for them when there's tense situations and terror attacks. It's difficult for them and they struggle with it. But they have a much more. They really have like a way of hashkafically, in terms of Jewish outlook, really dealing with it in a way that I don't. So I wanted to sort of talk with that and talk about what I'm learning from my children about dealing with difficult situations. So just to tell you two little stories. A few weeks ago, even a few months ago, there was, I think it was maybe one of the worst days of the current Intifada. That there was that in the morning there was a bus, there was a terror attack on a bus in Talpiot, and there were several attacks over the course of that day, and it was just like a very sort of not like it was a day of non-stop terror attacks. And so my kids came home that day from school. I said, okay, kids, family meeting. I said, okay, so things are going crazy out there. This week, nobody is going to school. Nobody is leaving the house. If you want to go to the corner store, then okay, like Ima and Abba, we're gonna have like a special, committee to ask for special permission to go to the corner store, which is like, 10 steps from our house. Okay, that was where I was holding, and the kids were like, oh, okay, okay. And then about half an hour later, my two older daughters, who are, as I said, very idealistic and very Zionistic, they said, "Okay, kids, today let's dance." And then they got all the kids, even my 3-year-old, my 3-year-old, my 5-year-old, all my children dancing around in a circle, and they're singing Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai, and they were singing the song. Maybe some of you remember it from the Gush Katif days, when they said, Am hanetzach lo mefached miderech aoka. The eternal people is not afraid of a long journey. We've got a long road ahead, but we're not afraid. We're the eternal people. And like dancing around the living room with my, with the kids. So do you see like the difference, a little bit of a difference in approach? Also yesterday I had like a similar experience. As I told you last week, there was a awful, horrific stabbing by Jaffa Gate in the Old City. By the Old City, and a teacher from Aish Torah was murdered, and someone else actually, a hero who actually tried to save the rabbi, was unfortunately tragically killed. But it was a misfire from a soldier. It was very whatever terrible. So I decided, okay, so I decided like I'm not going to go to the Old City, and I'm not going to let my kids. No one's going to go to the Old City for like a few weeks, okay? Um, and um, and then again on Shabbat morning, there was an attempted stabbing at Kikar Tzahal, which is also near, which is somewhere near like a little, like up a little bit up from Jaffa Gate. So I'm like, okay, that just that really like solves it for me. That like closes it. We're not going to the Old City for a while now. We're going to be staying Kiryat Moshe. This area, good, okay. So after Shabbat. So one of my older daughters, one of my idealistic, very Zionistic daughters, she says, "Bye, Im, I'm going to Malava Malka at Jaffa Gate." I was like, "What? What are you doing?" "Bye, Im, I'm going to Malava Malka at Jaffa Gate." I'm like, "Dear daughter, Malava Malka is like sort of like a meal that you have out that some people eat after Shabbat." And I was like, dear daughter, do you realize that there was an attempted stabbing there today? There was a stabbing there, last week, last Tuesday or Wednesday, and do you know that you're going there? She said, yeah, I'm going. Bye, Emma. Bye. And but then no. So let me just going back. So I said, do you know this? I know that. Do you know there was a stabbing there? I said, you shouldn't be going. There's a stabbing. She said, yeah, Ima, there was a stabbing there. That's why I'm going. There's a stabbing there. That's why I'm going. So I just want to explain. Okay, so it might be that to some people this sounds like really crazy, but to explain what it is, like what keeps these kids like so idealistic and so Zionistic, what keeps them going? What is their way of seeing what's happening? That they see things, that everything that's happening is part of a divine plan. And everything that's happening, that these are, these are like the birth pangs of Mashiach, and also they see what they're thinking about is just to like tell you another story. So right after that terrible day, the terrible day when there was like the bus, the stabbing, the terror attack on the bus in Talpiot, and there were many terror attacks in the same day, and like it was just a terrible week of sort of nonstop terror attacks. And one of my daughters was speaking with my parents on Skype, and my mother asked my daughter, said, so tell me, dear granddaughter, how are you managing? How are you feeling? How are you feeling about everything that's happening? And my daughter said, at my school, we talk a lot about the nation of Am Yisrael, our nation. So she said, when you think about the nation and what the nation is going through, and what we can do to help the nation live in Eretz Israel, live in the land of Israel, and help the Jewish people feel stronger and be safe and have emunah and have faith and feel strong and be here, she said, then you feel a lot less afraid. So I know like for somebody like me, it's a really big transition. Like I've always lived in Israel, like being like, because I live in Israel because I love Israel. I like it here. I like living here. I like raising my kids here. I like Israel. I like the culture. I think the land of Israel is beautiful, and I like living in this historic place, and it's cool. I like it here. But it's never really been like just right now, like sort of starting to see it through my daughter's eyes, so my idealistic, very Zionistic daughter's eyes. I see that this is like living here, whether you're living like me in Jerusalem, or you're living like in a Yishuv, you're living in Efrat or somewhere in the Shomron, or you're living in Modi'in, or you're living in Tel Aviv, you're living in Eilat, wherever you're living in the land of Israel, and that is a shlichut. This is like a mission. It's like a divine mission living here in this land. And, and it's not always easy. We learn Eretz Yisrael niknet b'yisuin. Like the land of Israel is acquired through suffering. And that's how it is. Like this is such a precious place. And and we always hear about, different people on different kinds of missions, different kinds of shlichuyot. You hear about Chabad shluchim living in the middle of nowhere, living in the middle of Mongolia. I don't know. But that's Mesiut Nefetz. That's their shlichut. That's how they're serving Hashem. They're serving Hashem by reaching the Jewish travelers or businessmen who are working in outer Mongolia or whatever. And for us, just living here, just raising our kids here, this is it. This is our shlichut. This is it. So I just want to talk about just two practical ways just to keep calm, not letting the stress take over your life. So one thing that I learned from a psychologist when I was in a very, very stressful situation when the years I was living, the last few years in Nachlaot, with this very stressful kind of pedophile infestation kind of situation. So I went to a psychologist and told her I was feeling extremely anxious, and she told me that the psychiatrist who supervises her work, that he told her that most people who struggle with anxiety and extreme stress, most of them should be taking omega-3. Most of people who are struggling with anxiety could really, really be helped by omega-3. So at that time when I was very, very stressed out in Nachlaot, I was taking a maximum dosage, she said, of 4 omega-3 capsules a day. And I would check this out with your doctor or whoever you consult with, your pharmacist, to find out what exactly the dosage is. But I was taking in very, very stressful times, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Now I've gone back. Now I take 1 in the morning regularly, but now with the stressful situation, I start taking again another 1 in the afternoon. And if I'm still stressed out, another 1 at night. And it's helpful. It's helpful just sort of to keep you a bit calmer. I know it's very, very helpful for me. Another thing I want to say, so last night, I was trying to go to sleep and I was just stressed out. I was just stressed out. I have 8 kids and 8 kids to be responsible for. Kids who are taking buses, kids are going to school, kids are going to, all sorts of various things. Malava Malka at Jaffa Gate, and I couldn't, I was so tense and so worried I couldn't get to sleep. So what I did is I did something that I've worked on very, very much over the last few years. I did some positive visualization. I imagined all of my kids. I started imagining, this is something that I actually do every day. I imagined 10 things the following day that would go well. Imagine this child coming home safely, and this child coming home safely, and that child coming home safely. And I imagined, again, something that I enjoy doing. I imagined myself an old lady with my husband at my side, an old man, surrounded by our children and grandchildren, and and even getting ready. I sort of went overboard last night. I was thinking of celebrating the weddings of my grandchildren, and dancing at the weddings of my grandchildren. And with that thought, I went to sleep. And so I want to just recommend this to you, just like the power of positive visualization. So I took a course last year, or I took a course a few years ago with Chaya Hinda Allen about the power of positive visualization to actually shape reality. But at the very least, even if you don't believe in that, in the very least, then it really just makes us feel better. It can make you really feel better and calmer. And in my personal experience, when you visualize something working out well, it almost always comes true. So I wanted to, just in conclusion, when hard times, Eretz Israel, hard times, you should remember, Jewish moms, just living here, just being here, even if you're not, my daughter, if you're not following my daughter's, example and going to the Malava Malka at Jaffa Gate, that you just living here, doing your laundry, raising your kids, living your life here, that is a shlichut. You are performing the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Israel. You are doing it. You are maintaining a Jewish homeland for the Jewish people just by staying, even though you're scared, that you're staying, you're living here. That is your shlichut right now. In terms of staying calm, I recommend the benefits of omega-3, highly recommended. If you're feeling stressed out and anxious, and also positive visualization. Just if you're feeling stressed out, try and imagine like a positive, as opposed to your worries and all of the worst case scenarios. Imagine instead the best case scenario? What's the best thing that could happen? And imagine, and in almost all cases, it actually does come, it actually does, in my experience, it actually takes place. Things are actually okay. So I want to bless all of you Dushmans with an amazing, amazing Sunday.